Welcome, 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 everyone. This is Justin Tyler, Parent Relations Executive here at Jim's American Academy. We are very excited to go over the grade 5 to grade 6 transition and what that entails. So it's only right that we have both of our principals from lower school and upper school on this stream to talk about that transition and what it looks like. This is a very important topic for us because we want the right transition and orientation for our grade 5 students to properly go from lower school to upper school. This is a big time in their lives at this moment, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and get to know everyone here. By this time, if you go to our school, you should know these people. But just in case you do not, right? We're gonna introduce the principals here and also get into the nature of what we're here for, okay? So first and foremost, I'll give it to Miss Justine, lower school principal. Tell us who you are.
Hi, everybody. We're so glad you're here and wanting to learn more about the grade 5 to grade 6 transition. I'm the lower school principal. And, over the time that you've spent with us at GEM so far, we've really been working with your students to prepare them for the transition that they're about to experience. So we've done things like help them with their organizational skills. We've been, of course, building their basic skills in reading and writing and math, Arabic, Islamic. So elementary school is a time really where kids can build their basic skills as well as their social emotional learning and how to really build friendships and things like that. Now is the time that we really get students talking and thinking about what is it going to look like in 6th grade. And sometimes it's a little scary for them. And honestly, sometimes it's scary for the parents too. Because now instead of one homeroom teacher, your children are going to have many teachers in their core subject areas. So Mr. Gregory and the lower school team have been working really closely to plan an amazing transition for your students. And so Mr. Gregory is here to help you guys understand more about that transition. I just want to really take this opportunity to say thank you so much for trusting the lower school with your children. And we've really enjoyed them. This class of grade 5 students is really, really special. And obviously we've gone through the pandemic together, and that has presented challenges that your students have overcome brilliantly, and they're ready. So take it away, Mr. Gregory. You're the one
I'm in charge now of the man.
So
You're the captain then.
I'm the captain now. So I'm Mr. Gregory. I'm the upper school principal for grade 6 through 12. As Justine said, we've been working with the grade 5 team over the last maybe 2 months, just planning our transition. We had a Q&A session over the last 2 days where some of our sixth grade students came down to grade 5 and visited them and answered some questions in class. They were really fun, interactive classes because they were full of questions. They did have some silly ones, but of course it was a nice positive atmosphere, and I got to introduce myself to the classes as well and make sure they know who I was. But yeah, we're working on. We're doing this Q&A session with parents today. We've done the Q&A session with the students. We're working on a YouTube playlist with some sort of how-to videos for students and incoming students, brand new students coming in, just to make sure that they know certain small things that are different in upper school than in elementary. And then next week we have a glow up day, we're calling it, and some of my team right now have been working on that, and it's going to be a mock sort of transitional day of what a normal middle school day is going to look like. I want all of the students to be in uniform, and I'm going to be there in the morning making sure that they're in the correct uniform and that they're on time, and then they're going to go around to 9 classes. They're going to have transition times of only 3 minutes to get from one room to the next. They're going to have 9 different teachers in one day. And we're just going to sort of prepare them in those classes for some of the things for next year. So we're really, this year, we've really stepped up our game, and I think this is probably one of the better transition programs that we've had in recent years. So I'm really optimistic about it, and I'm really looking forward to having you guys next Thursday and next year. And as always, my door is always open. I always answer my emails, and I'm there ready to communicate and answer any questions you guys might have.
All right. Sounds great. Sounds great. And I always want to say, I think it's very funny that, throughout this time, I love getting Miss Justine's emails. I wonder how many emails she gets of mine as well. But it's all great. Mr. Gregory, thank you for, your introduction as well. I think we all know who you are. We all know who Mr. Justine is. But now we have the man who leads this whole thing, right? Mr. Mark Lentz. So here you go. I let it go to you now, sir.
I'm not sure after everything you guys said how much more I can add. I think you guys have done a great job so far. I'd like to commend the 5th grade team and the upper school team really for looking out for our 5th graders, ensuring that they're as prepared as you can ever be for 6th grade. Although I told Mr. Greger the other day, I said, we can prepare them as much as we want, but it's a little bit like getting into parenthood. You can read every book about parenthood you ever wanted to read, but until you have your first child, you're not as prepared as you think you are. So we'll do everything we can to make sure they're as prepared as they can be. And some of them will do great, hit the ground running, and think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. And some will be scared, and some will be nervous, and we'll be there to hold their hand and make sure they're okay and answer any of your questions. And they'll be okay.
All right. Sounds great. I'm glad everyone had the proper introduction. So I think it's good time now to address some major questions or questions that are most frequently answered, right? We don't have all the answers, right, in terms of what you may be thinking, parents. So you can use the comments section for YouTube or the chat section for YouTube, and just put your questions in there. Give us some feedback at the end of the question prompts that I have. Then we'll be able to go into a Q&A, and then the principals or maybe Mr. Mark or myself can answer any of those questions that you have as well, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to go into some of the major questions that we have, and we'll see how we can answer them. And so for everyone here, the first question that I would think that parents would want to ask is, what devices do you recommend for upper school? Is it the same as lower school? Am I getting some new equipment? What about the technology? What's going on? What do we use for upper school?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So we're a BYOD school for grade 6 through 12, and bring your own device. And it's sort of we use our devices a lot in upper school. It's probably one of the most important things for students to have. One of the questions that actually came up with the grade 5s asking the grade 6 students the other day was, what's the best device to have? And the students basically said that a laptop is the best because it has the keyboard function. But that doesn't mean if you have an iPad or a tablet out there and you're like, I'm not buying a laptop, that's perfectly fine. But I do suggest getting maybe a wireless keyboard to go with the iPad, because they're going to be working on Google Docs and Google Sheets and a lot of those things, and they need to be typing up essays and stuff. And the longer they go into middle school, and especially when they get to high school eventually, they really do need a good functioning keyboard. Tapping on your phone, I don't know about you, but I can't write an essay on my phone. I wouldn't be able to text you an essay. So it's sort of the same with an iPad, which is just a bigger version of a phone, in my opinion. So yeah, laptop is suggested, but if you have an iPad, I suggest just getting a keyboard. Yeah.
And I love it too. The chat definitely has some questions coming in. So definitely parents are going to answer those at the end. So keep them coming. Keep them running, all right? We're going to answer them at the end. So anybody else answer that question before I go on to the next one?
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit. I think a lot of you guys know that I'm not just the head of school, but I'm also a fellow parent. So my daughter in 7th grade limped through pretty successfully with her with one of our old iPads, because her dad's kind of cheap, I guess. But she did fine. But for her birthday, we definitely upgraded to the full computer, and for exactly the reason that Mr. Gregory said. It's got the keyboard, and it's just you're able to produce. There's you know, we used to teach kids back in the day. Our job was to teach, and they had to learn, and there was not the same connection. Then when I got into teaching, there was a whole guide on the side. So it wasn't about me teaching, it was about them learning and me just being there to facilitate that learning. And the new wave in education is about production. It's not about whether or not they get the information. It's about whether or not they can produce something with that education. And so at GAQ, we're really looking at creating producers instead of just learners. And you can produce a lot better with a laptop than you can with an iPad. What genre of, you know, whether it's a MacBook or a PC, those sorts of things are up to you. But yeah, I'd strongly recommend from experience that they use that laptop.
Right. It's good information right there. Mr. Justine, do you have anything before I go on to the next one? Okay. All right. So the next question, this is my question. I want to know this as well, right? Because this is a very important platform that we use. What is Alma? And how do parents and students actually use this platform? This is the best question so far, I'm telling you. What is that? I want somebody to answer this. I'm all ears. I'm all ears.
I'll jump in. I think I'm going to be short with this one, actually, because I could talk about Alma for a while. But basically, Alma is a student management system that we in upper school use and utilize for our documentation and, you know, marking students absent, late, etc. Our grade books are all there. But the main thing for parents and students is that both parents and students have access to their child's Alma account. And when you go onto Alma, students will be able to see their grades, they're able to see whether they're marked absent, and they're able to see upcoming assignments. So it's sort of like a journal and an organizer in a way. But in addition to that, parents also have access, and parents can also see. So we really encourage students being responsible and taking ownership. So we want students to be logging in and checking their grades and making sure they're doing their assignments. But in the early years, especially in 6th, maybe 7th grade, it's great help if the parents can also go in and be like, oh, by the way, why haven't you handed in your maths assignment that was due yesterday? Or, you know, that type of thing. But that's essentially the most important feature for students. They have their schedule on that as well, and so it tells them where to be and what times. So yeah.
Anything else? Anyone else have any other input? Because I do believe that this is so important. And the reason I say that is because a lot of questions sometimes are centered around Alma, but we don't have the students or parents. You know, we have students on it, but parents may not be activated on there. You know, it's very important for the parents to also be activated on Alma. And we'll be doing our best to come up with those videos and pushing them out to you. If you have any questions on how to get on Alma or things like that, this is where Miss Maureen is important. The receptionist, myself, we can help you with those questions and passwords or the system, what it's about. We can also be of assistance to you in this transition, all right?
I think the 5th graders right now are getting a bit of an introduction to Alma as well. So maybe your children will be able to tell you a little bit about Alma already. So we're starting to train them in 5th grade. I think that started, last week or the week before, Mr. Gregory? And then they'll, of course, get an introduction the first week or so of 6th grade as well.
That's great. All right. So let's move on to the third question. And this is a question that we all can also chime in as well. But what's the best advice for an incoming student? Grade 5 to grade 6 is like a new beast. We don't know what it's going to be, right? You don't know until you get in it. So, like, what can we tell our parents and also our students, you know, to get us prepared as much as possible and to what to
expect? I could just go just a quick sec, Mr. Gregory. I think that the more students can ask questions, the better off they'll be, right? Sometimes a new 6th grader will come down to my office because they know where it is, and then I'll show him Mr. Gregory's office, and then he'll take them up to their class, So of course we're always here to support them in the lower school, but the more questions they ask, the better off they'll be.
Yeah, and I think that to chime in on what Miss Justine was saying, I think it's that they have access to all of their teachers' emails, and all of the teachers have open doors. Now they do teach classes all the time, but the teachers are very welcoming, and they always get back to you in emails. So we have that sort of environment here where we communicate clearly with each other. And the one that I would say, which is the most important and the main difference that I think I see is a lot of our sixth grade students always seem to not hand their assignments in on time. And it's sort of like they're not used to that deadline type of thing. They do get deadlines, I think, in fifth grade, of course, but I think the teachers are a little bit more forgiving. And when my teachers have 150 students, if an assignment comes in late, it's just marked late and they get deductions. So make sure your students or your children are handing their assignments in on time so that their grades aren't impacted. That would be my number one sort of piece of advice. Mr. Lenz, anything from you?
Yeah, building on that, I have I have sort of a mantra that the kids hear me say all the time. I have 4 things. I actually started this at another school, but whether you're talking the 5th grade transition to 6th or the 8th grade transition to 9th, there's always this feeling that it's harder, or the other one we get all the time is it's more strict now. And I say that really the school expectations K through 12 are the same. If you learn these 4 simple things, you're good to go. We're not a military school. I've worked at those. It's very different, right? So you need to do 4 things. You need to show up on time, in dress code, with your homework finished, and be respectful. And not just to your teacher, to everybody. But if your child shows up to school on time, they're in the proper dress code, they've got their homework done, and they have a positive attitude, and they're respectful of their peers and their teachers, they're going to have an amazing year. If they're repeatedly not in dress code or not on time or don't have their homework done or not respectful, then they'll have a more difficult year. It's a pretty simple, it's really all they need to do, those 4 things.
I think that's a good motto. We should get that up on the wall somewhere.
Why not? Right? Definitely. All right. I think he's the man that can make it happen. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
All right. So let's head to our next question. This is a very important question for me as well. I like to know this too. And I do know it, but it's a good question for everyone to know. So the next question is about Arabic classes. So are Arabic classes native and non-native in upper school too? How does it work? Is it different than lower school? I don't know.
Mark, do you want to take that one?
I'll let you start, and I'll see if I have something to build.
So the one of so we wanted to offer French and Spanish, and we started to offer French, Spanish, and we have Arabic, and they're the 3 subjects that we offer as our foreign languages. Students who have Arabic passports are mandated by the Ministry of Education to take Arabic and Islamic native. But other students have options. They can choose to take Arabic if they wish, but we don't usually recommend that because Arabic it's not non-native or native, it's just Arabic. And it's usually full of a lot of native speakers, which can be a bit intimidating for anybody who's beginning Arabic. Our teachers do, differentiate to students who wish to take it, but I don't recommend taking Arabic if you are basically it's not your native tongue. That's why we have French and Spanish offered in middle school as fully, separate classes. And I know in middle school or in grade 5 this year, I know they had French and Spanish introduced, which is great because we have that link up. So yeah, there is exceptions. There's a handful of exceptions, but for the most part, you'd want to be a native speaker really to be in the Arabic classes. Yeah. That's always a tricky question, but I think I got that right.
Yeah, the simplest version from what he's saying is we are required to offer Arabic. We are not required to offer non-native Arabic, and non-native Arabic can be taught inside Arabic. And it's not dissimilar. In our Spanish classes, we have students who are native Spanish speakers with students who've never taught Spanish, and the teacher has to differentiate. And so essentially, if a student chooses to be in Arabic and they're a non-native Arabic speaker, we certainly allow that. It just means it's a little bit more work for the student and the teacher, and for the teacher as well, because they need to differentiate instruction.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not a principal, but I give you both an A for your performance. I love it. I love it. All right. So next important question is, how important are school uniforms in upper school?
I'd say pretty important, and that varies. Usually, and Mr. Gregory can give me the exact dates, but usually the first week or two were a little lenient. As we know, students are buying uniforms and getting prepared, but there's usually a warned uniform crackdown, if you will, where we'll sort of let the students know, hey, starting on Sunday, no more exceptions. And one of the reasons it's probably really important for mom and dad, maybe even more important for mom and dad than the student, is if your child's in uniform, we're not calling you and harassing you. And we don't like doing that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. I think what the conversation that I have with students when they come in about uniform here we feel is important. And I think when students don't come in uniform, what the first thing I'll probably ask them is do you not want to be at this school? Do you not feel like proud to wear our uniform and be part of our team? It's like, in a soccer game, if you walk onto the football pitch and you're not wearing their jersey, that's the way I treat it. It's like, if you come in the uniform, you want to show that you're here and you want to be part of our school and our community. And it's also just about professional etiquette and sort of and your demeanor and sort of how you look and how you present yourself to teachers. But it is important. I think the number one thing that everybody forgets is that we want all black shoes, and we have students coming in pink, green, and blue shoes every year, and that's usually the biggest battleground. But yeah, we want all black shoes, students to wear a tie or the scarf for the girls, and just the proper pants and a shirt. We do have, if the students do get involved in some clubs and stuff, we do have like some really nice gear that we get. Our med club at the moment has their own jumpers. Our seniors have their own senior jackets, and we have like student council jumpers and a few things like that we've started to introduce over the years. So there is like a bit more variety coming in the last few years. So there is those options eventually. But for the moment, I want my sixth graders to look like they're part of our team and ready to be part of our community.
Yeah. I think, the big thing too is that, everyone's a team, right? Everyone comes wearing the same thing. No one has better designer this than someone else. That's part of what a uniform is about, that you take all that down, everyone's together, everyone's a team, everyone's the same. I think
look at us today with all of our Raptor shirts. We're proud.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's part of that too, right? You feel together. I think the other part of it is also just, if you dress better, you feel better, I don't know. You dress like it, you're going to feel better about it. If I dress in sweatpants, I'm definitely not working. That's just how it is. So but it is very important. So this is a really good question that we had to address today. So, all right. So let's move on to the next one. This is a very important question and very different than what lower school could be sometimes, but maybe the same. We'll see. How many classes does a student have in a day? What are there to expect? Is there study halls? Is lunch a part of that class schedule? How long are these classes? These are some big questions, folks. So let's just get an answer for everyone.
That's a quick one. I'll do that one quick. So it's every student has 9 blocks in a day, in the normal day. They're all 45 minutes. One of those blocks is for lunch, so it's a 45-minute lunch break. They usually have 3 minutes to get in between classes. So that's basically what a normal middle school day looks like. Thursday varies a little bit because of the times. We make the times a little shorter, but that's essentially it. All right.
Yeah, I guess that's straightforward, right? Like I can go to the next one. So next one, what happens if my child fails any courses? Now, let's just say that's not the expectation, right? think everyone is going to be a student. But yes, what does happen if that happens, Mr. Gregory?
Another quick one, but at the end of the year, if a student fails 3 or more courses, we ask them to be retained, so they have to repeat that grade. So I will say, like, don't be afraid the first month when, your child gets an F on their Alma and you're looking and they're like, they've never gotten an F before. It happens. Sometimes teachers are grading and they might have got the assignment a little late and they'll just input an F. But the grade books are always changing day to day. But yeah, if we have a student at 3 or more Fs, that's usually, we start having conversations early. We try to get them support. This year we had a mentorship program. It worked this year, and we'll try to do something similar next year. That helps any students who are struggling with their grades. But yeah, 3 or more, and we usually push them to be retained and repeat the year and go through it again.
Okay. You're not going to be surprised. You might be surprised if your child gets an F for the first time, but you're not going to be surprised at the end of the year. It's a great question. When we did our Q&A session in 5th grade, they asked this question a lot. And the kids were confused, like, oh my gosh, if I get 3 Fs, I fail, thinking that like if they failed 3 quizzes in any subject, they were done for the year. That's obviously not what we mean. Our grades are cumulative throughout the year, and you'll have 4 report cards. So you'll have 4 separate times when you get a clear indicator of where your child is at. And in between that, you'll get numerous emails. And if a child is in danger of actually failing and repeating for the year, that you will have gotten very, very much prior communication from Mr. Gregory and I. Anybody who's going to be retained has a meeting with Mr. Gregory and I personally, with the mom and dad, and early enough to try and be proactive and figure out what the problem is and try and help come up with a solution, because we don't want your child to ever be retained any more than you do.
It's a very good point. Very good clarification there. So, okay. I think that's the end of my questions, right? So I think we need to go ahead and answer the parents' questions at this moment, all right? So we're going to transition to the comments section, and I'll put some questions up there so we can actually see it all, and then we can all just kind of jump in if we can answer. Now, I'll tell you right now, I may be bad. I'm not going to butcher anyone's name. So if I don't know how to say it, I'm just going to put it right on the screen, and we're going to address the question. I respect everyone's name, right, and the name that you were given. I'm not going to mess it up, okay? So let's look at the first question we'll put on the screen, everyone. So how can we answer this question here?
How the curriculum and the materials are chosen. So the curriculum is something that's decided by SLT and just by the teachers over the years. We very much follow the American curriculum. There is a bit of flexibility in the curriculum. But essentially we research and we go in and we look at the materials that are best, and we sort of get the best that we can or don't think. And then the curriculums we've been building on for numerous years. We haven't really changed many of the curriculums, but we try to align them to Common Core standards. And it depends on the subject. C3 is social studies, and we use the Springboard curriculum in English and mathematics. And sort of an NGSS is the standards in science, but it's all sort of linked. And because we're an advanced placement school, we've leaned towards most of the Common Core state standards and the Springboard curriculums, which directly align to the AP exams. So it's basically structured so that you start in 6th grade with these things, these standards, and you work your way up, so that when you get to 11th and 12th grade, you can start picking what you're strong in to be successful. That's essentially the curriculum and material overview. That's a tough question that I could talk for a good while on. So I'd be happy, Wasim, I think, anytime if you want to give me a call, I can chat about that.
I can say often there's confusion between curriculum and materials too. Curriculum are those standards that Mr. Gregory is talking about. They're the end goals that we're trying to teach. The materials are and lesson plans are the way we reach those standards. And the one point that sometimes is confusing in terms of materials is you'll notice in your fees, you pay a book fee. Many schools and us as well are moving as much as possible to online textbooks. Online text, not all of our textbooks are online at this point, but I envision in the case that being the future. You can't lose an online textbook. You can't damage an online textbook. And they're not year in and year out, they remain the same. And they also they're much, much more interactive than an actual hard copy physical textbook. And I don't have to worry about them getting stuck in customs and being late. So there's just a lot of advantages to that. Again, we still have some of our textbooks from previous years, but as we grow, I envision us phasing those out year on and year out as we get more and more online textbooks.
Wow. Very good, very good. Next question is actually, I believe, from a student in grade 5. So this is pretty cool. I think the next 2 questions are from a student in grade 5. So I'll put this on the screen right now. So what happens if a student forgets his device or her device?
Yeah, that was asked in the Q&A sessions the other day. Maybe it wasn't in that class, but and our grade 6s were like, "Oh no, that's like the worst thing you could do." But it's sort of it's been this year. It has been very important. The devices, obviously, because we've done so much online. But generally, if worst case scenario, if a kid does forget their device, we do have some iPads that we can get to keep them so to make sure to get them through the day. But it is one of those things that they have to check every day to make sure they have, and it's not the devices are very rarely forgotten, but chargers are forgotten the most. And usually your friends might have a charger and they're able to help you out, or your teacher, but it's chargers that are usually what is forgotten.
I forgot my charger yesterday and had to borrow Miss Justine's, and my son forgot his charger today and had to borrow mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a really good question, yeah. But anything else on that question before we go ahead? Because he has another question as well.
Yeah, no, go on to his next one.
Go ahead to that one. Yep. So second question is, what are the important supplies that students would need?
Well, we provide pencils and all of the resources, so the materials that they need in class. I think really just bringing their device and making sure they have their uniform. That's pretty much all they need. We'll provide them with the textbooks and resources and materials, pens, pencils, Post-it notes, glue stick, rulers. Even we have scientific calculators in classes. If you don't like the scientific calculators that we have, I would suggest getting your own sort of calculator. I have a lovely pink one personally, as a maths teacher. So that might be something you might invest in just for the long term. But yeah, we do have calculators in school that they're allowed to use in school and stuff as well. So we essentially have everything. So just your uniform and a nice device, and maybe headphones. Yeah.
So I don't have to go to one place to get all these supplies. I don't have to do any of that.
No, that's from a business guy's standpoint. One of the things that frustrates me with the way our fees are listed, I talked about that book fee. There's another one that says stationery. And parents always say, why am I paying for stationery? And what stationery are you talking about? My kid doesn't have any stationery. I wish that said school supplies, because I think what the student's question is referring to, I remember back in the day, my mom and I would hop on our dinosaur and ride to the rock farms, and we had to find different style folders and all kinds of paper and pencils and crayons and all the different stuff we needed. And I loved it. My mom hated it. And parents don't have to do any of that. Your child shows up in their uniform, ready to go with that device, and we'll make sure they got everything they need.
All right, that's a good one too. I'm glad that was two really good questions from the students. So I really appreciate that. Now we're going to transition to a parent question. This parent, I think she's a parent of a grade 5 student. I think her daughter is in grade 5. So this is the question here. What do we think about this question?
Yeah, you go to the principal. We don't have advisory. We used to have advisory, but we thought we wanted to, more class time. So that's sort of why we got rid of the homeroom and advisory in upper school. Yeah. But my door is always open. We're going to have an assistant principal next year as well, to come and help support me. So we'll have an assistant principal and principal for that stuff. We also have counselors. So there's all of that support. If there's any issues, you come directly to me. You can talk with the teacher as well. We do have an advisory class that is on Alma, where every week I post a bulletin with important information, and the students get to read that. So that's sort of how we communicate with the advisory team. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I sometimes, if it's subject specific, if it's a math question, you'll have the teacher's emails and information. If it's a question about a math quiz, go to the math teacher. If it's about a social studies assignment, you can talk to the social studies teacher. But if it's general and not class specific, then you can go to the admin.
Yeah. And I think also too, if I could speak for myself, I think if you have any general questions or you just lost, I don't know what to do, come see me. You can email me. That's what I'm here for as well, to kind of be a resource to the parents in case everything breaks down and you don't know what to do, right? I'm here for you as well. So, all right. Another question from Ira. It's a good question here. I'll let the experts address this one.
I would say for the immediate future, there's a 0% chance that we'll use IB curriculum. We really pride ourselves on being one of the only real American schools in the country. There are other schools that follow the American curriculum, but I think possibly other than ASD, we're one of the only schools that follows the American curriculum to the extent that I would expect in a world-class American international school. And absolutely love the IB curriculum. I've taught the IB curriculum. I've worked in international schools that follow the IB curriculum, but AP was actually founded before IB, 4 years before in 1958, and IB followed suit in 1962 out of Geneva, but both with the same goals, to have an advanced curriculum that gets students college credit. And since AP is the predominant program in America and is basically the American curriculum is tailored for the AP, that just makes sense for us. There are American schools out there that offer the AP and the IB, but you need a really big senior class. You need a graduating senior class of 200, 250 kids. And that's just not the size of our school. So 5, 6, 8 years down the road, maybe that's something we'd consider bringing in. But in the immediate future, we will definitely remain an AP school. And then, as we said earlier, we follow all the American Common Core standards, which again is another reason to be an AP school, because advanced placement is built upon those American curriculum standards.
I think Ira got more than she was asking for on that one.
Yeah, sorry, that's
it's a good thing.
I've answered a lot.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to get information. So the next question, I believe, pronounce it Wasim. I think he's a parent, definitely a parent of our school. And this is the question here. It's a good question as well. Very good question.
So I think that one is I wish we could plan and predict. And I think me and Mr. Lentz and even Ms. Justine were very optimistic about, being back on campus and having a normal school year next year. But that is just something none of us can guarantee. Of course, we want to emphasize student interaction, and if they're back on campus, I've already sat down with Miss Ali, who's our Dean of Students, and she's planned out a year of events and, house challenges and all of these things that are really the sort of community factor and experience that we've had in previous years that we really didn't have this year. And we're really sorry about that, but it is the year that we're in. So yes is the answer really for that. There's definitely going to be more student interaction. Even the small thing where they're going to have hopefully class sizes of 25 again, and they're going to see all of their friends in one room. That would be even that would be an achievement. But yeah, we plan on having a normal year next year, a lot more student interaction, and a lot more parent interaction. I miss you guys. I haven't seen you guys on campus as much. And there's that aspect that we're sort of been missing this year as well. So yeah.
This is a great example. We're live streaming this right now because you can't come on campus in a large group. If you could, we might not be. There's advantages of the live stream, and I'm sure we'll still do some of those things. But we'd have in-person meetings with you guys if we could. Not just the students have spent a horrible amount of time on. Raise your hand, guys, and Justin, Justine, Eamon, do you feel like you've spent a horrible amount of time online over the last couple of months? I really hope we're back on campus. I feel worse for the kids. They're younger, but we all really want you and your kids back on campus 100%. I promise.
Yeah, the energy, the buzz of the school is really different. I hear too much echo. Before it was too many people here to hear so much echoing in the school. So, and even for me, I miss the parents. I miss liaising with them. I miss talking with them, getting coffee with them, and having fun. Like, you can't do that. So I'm really, really hoping that's the case, and we all are dying for that interaction as well, honestly. So everyone is. Good question. All right. So the next question, I believe, is a grade 5 student. I'm an old man now, but I think I know these names. I think this is a grade 5 student currently. So this is the question here from the grade 5 student. How can we address Tamim's question?
So Tamim and anybody in grade 5 and anybody else listening in upper school, the schedule is in at the moment, and we have everybody's requests in, and we've scheduled them according to that. There will be an opportunity in August where I send out a form, and if you wish to change, you just fill in the form, and then I'll sit down and talk with you and make sure that makes sense. We try to get everybody exactly what they want. We had a 99.4% success rate with the schedules this year, which is really, really, that's unheard of generally in a school. But we got most people into the courses they want. So if we can and you can make the switch, we will do it. If it's not possible, we'll explain to you why it's not possible. But we do have, I think everybody in 5th grade coming into 6th grade got exactly what they wanted on the form. So I hope there's flexibility in the schedule and we'll be able to make whatever class you want to switch. But we'll wait till August for that. And then, we can do it then. All right.
All right. So the next question, if my my genie ball is correct, this is a parent as well, Mr. Muhammad here. So more of a statement, actually a good feedback. So how can we address the feedback on the screen here?
They will. It's not. We won't sit down with them and literally upload all of the files onto their computer. But what a lot of the teachers will do is they'll give them access to their bulletin through Google Docs, which they have access anywhere in the world. And basically there'll be links and all of that there, the content and the assignments. And it's the same with Alma as well. The access to Alma is digital. They can do that anywhere, and you can go in and see their assignments and links. But I think we sort of do what he's suggesting already, Khaled. I think we sort of do what you're suggesting. But next year, if you've had feedback and you think we could do it in a different way, please let me know.
All right. So another question from a parent here. This is a good question as well.
Yeah. The easiest one for that is I agree. To be honest, sometimes with projects, one student does everything and then the other kids all get the A in the class. Our teachers are very aware of that. A lot of the social studies teachers, to be honest, do some group projects, but they have a rubric which clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities for each individual. And then each student is marked accordingly, independently in the group project themselves. So there is things that teachers do now and have started to do that sort of gets rid of that unfairness. So I hope next year you see that in class. And if not, get back to me and I can talk to teachers about other ways that they can do, group grading on projects.
All right. The next question I have is from Lucinda Hussein. Can I start booking for next year? Lucinda, if you can let us know what you mean by booking. I'm not sure if it's, I want to just need more clarification. We could definitely answer that question. Just give us a little bit more clarification in your comments and we'll come back to your question, okay? So, all right. Next question here. How many students will be in 6th grade next year? How many sections?
If you have a crystal ball that I can borrow, I would love to give 100% answer. The shortest answer to that is I'm not 100% sure. We are predicting 4 sections. It is conceivable it will be 3, and that will depend on how many people enroll. And that really has a lot to do with the current economy and a lot to do with COVID and loosening of restrictions. I'm really hopeful we'll be able to hit the 4 sections as predicted, like we had this year. But that will depend on how many students enroll. So sorry if that's a bit of a cheeky answer, but that's really where we're at right now. And it's maybe only cheeky because I've spent all day coming up. I told Miss Justine earlier, last year, every time last year in COVID, we had a plan, something we couldn't see changed. So I don't have a plan for next year. I have 4 plans for next year. I have the plan I am hoping is going to happen, and then I have plans on each side of that just in case. So it's an unusual time to make predictions right now. I'm really, really hopeful though that the cases continue to normalize, restrictions continue to be lifted, school opens up 100%, and then I think things will be as back to normal as they can be.
Definitely. Next question. So when will we get our schedule? Good question. Very good question.
And the short one, August. And the first day, August 24th. That's when you'll get your schedule.
All right. There we go. So next question. Is it possible for me to have class with my sister? That'll be a 10th grader next year. Now, this will be a 6th grader and a 10th grader. Can you make that happen, Mr. Gregory? Can we make that happen? How do we do that?
That one. It sounds like a silly question, but it's not because that is possible when you get to high school. If you were in high school in 9th grade, you might be in some 10th grade classes, and some 10th graders might be in 9th grade classes. But for 6th grade, all of the 6th grade classes are just 6th grade. So it'll just be all 6th graders next year.
Unless you can convince your sister to go back to 6th grade.
Start again, yeah.
Probably not going to happen. I'm telling you right now.
I don't think she like that very much.
Not going to happen right now. All right. So he also has another question as well. Will there be red and blue day next year?
Depends on COVID. Hopefully not.
All right. Another question just popped in. When will the school year begin? Yeah.
August 24th for incoming 6th graders. That'll be the first orientation. We plan, I have to still talk with Mr. Lentz about August 25th and 26th, which is the Wednesday and Tuesday. But August 24th for all of the incoming 5th graders, they want to start and they get the school to themselves that day. It's the best day for them to be there. They get to get comfortable, they get to know the school without any big, 17, 18-year-old 12th graders walking around. Which can be intimidating at first, but they'll get used to that.
Yeah. And I'm putting in the link to our calendar from our website in the chat as well. I know the calendar is a big source of conversation, in terms of planning for the future. And so it's there in the chat. So feel free to take a look at our new and improved website and the calendar for next year as well. All right. Well, it looks like we can conclude the Q&A session. Any other questions that you have, we can always go to Ms. Justine, go to Mr. Gregory. Come see me if you like as well when you're in school. We can address those questions there. I really appreciate the parents and the students that were here today and their wonderful questions. I appreciate our esteemed panelists and our leadership for being here answering those questions as well. Any other parting words, everyone, that we want to give to our parents for this weekend as we embark? Any other parting words for you all?
Just look forward to everybody and Glow Day next week and working with everybody next year to make sure that your children and the students are successful. And that's our main goal here. So I hope that you get that vibe from us and that we're a community and we work together. It's parents, students, teachers, and administrators together can make all of that happen. So as long as we work together, I think there's not much that can stop us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I just wanted to say that, trust the process as parents. The upper school team is super well prepared. They've taken new sixth graders in every year since the beginning of their careers, and your kids are in really good hands. And we've enjoyed them down in the lower school, and they are ready to take on their next chapter of their lives. So we know they're going to be successful, and just trust the process. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll quote one of my former mentors, a guy named Al Orsini, and many years ago in an orientation, he said somewhat cheekily to all the parents, "I'll make you a promise that I won't believe everything your child tells me about you if you make me a promise that you won't believe everything your child tells you about my teachers." And so everybody sort of chuckled. And then the goal there was that we have a good parent relationship bond, and we work together at what's best for your kids. And so if you ever have any questions, concerns about anything that you hear from your students, talk to Mr. Gregory or I. We're here for you guys. And I hope you have a good last 2 weeks of school, a great summer, and I look forward to seeing you again next year.
Right. Yeah. And my last parting shot, I'm always going to leave you with a quote. This is how I do. Okay. This is off the top of my head as we were going through this. If you're afraid to use the door, just try the knob. Have a good weekend, everyone. All right.